Hello. This is the third video in our series on beginning to build number sense. In previous videos, we talked about counting, counting up and counting back, and counting objects and telling how many. In this video, we're going to look at some visual models that you can use at home to help build your child's number sense. We'll have particular focus on the benchmarks or landmarks of 5 and 10. So let's get started. 5 and 10 are natural benchmarks in our number system. For a child's first counting model is typically fingers. So if you're working with fingers, and by the way, that's absolutely fine, ask your child how many are up, but also ask how many fingers are down. So we have 3 up, 2 down, altogether that's 5. I can show the number in different ways. Here's 2 up, 3 down, altogether 5. I can show the 2 a different way. But the idea is for your child to recognize that any time 2 fingers are up, 3 are down, and the total is 5. When your child is ready, you can move on to 2 hands, showing numbers up to 10. Same idea. So how many are up? How many are down? 7 up, 3 down, altogether 10. That shows the relationship between numbers and the benchmarks or landmarks of 10. Something that we use at school that you can make at home easily is a frame to show the numbers. This would be a 5 frame. You can see it's made from an egg carton. And here's one that's on paper. You can orient it this way or you can orient it this way. Typically in school, working with the 5 frame, we'll have it this way, but it doesn't matter. Whichever model you're using, the idea is that you take some counters. In this case, we have pennies. Fill some of the cups. How many do we have? 3. How many are empty? 2. Altogether we have 5. Same thing with the paper one. You don't have to fill it in a particular order, but no matter how you put the counters into the frame, you want to talk about how many are full. In this case, 4. How many empty? 1. And how many altogether? 5. So here's your natural landmark of 5, and here's a 5 frame. And then we have a 10 frame. This would be the 10 frame. In school, typically it's oriented this way when we're working with beginning benchmark numbers, although sometimes it goes this way. Either way is really okay. So the 10 frame shows that 10 is 2 groups of 5. And again, you can fill it. Typically the top row is filled first. And you can ask your child, how many do you see? It's okay any way he counts it, or perhaps if he knows 5 and 2 is 7, that's even better. How many are empty? 3. Altogether we have 10. Changing which boxes are filled does not change the total. So you might ask your child to show you the same number in a different way. That's a 10 frame. When you're ready for numbers past 10, you can move to the double 10 frame. Same idea, except it will show numbers up to 20. So when we're working with the teen numbers, which we talked before, are kind of tricky for a lot of kids, the 10 frame helps kids to see that 12, for example, is a 10 and 2 more. But again, how you fill the frame is not as important. But you want to recognize 12 as 10 and 2 more, and you can see that it is 8 away from 20. Another tool that you can use, easy to make at home, is a bead bracelet. This is just 1 chenille pipe cleaner and some pony beads. You'll notice that the beads are in groups of 5 in alternating colors, so this would be a model for numbers up to 20. So to use it, you would start with all the beads off, and then if you want to show a number like 8, you would move 8 over. Now we have 8 beads on. I can see that 8 is 2 away from 10. I can see that 8 is also 5 and 3. So it's just basic counting, but it's putting those numbers in reference to landmark numbers so that a child can always see that relationship. You can model teen numbers the same way. 10, To put 4 more on, that would be 14, and I can see that it would take 6 more to get to 20. So this is just called a bead bracelet. Something that looks very similar would be this tool. This goes by a number of names. You might think of it like an abacus, and it can be used for counting. It's sometimes called a number rack, sometimes called a rekken rack, which comes from a Dutch word. So this is done very similarly to the bead bracelet. It has alternating colors of beads, and they are in groups of 5. So if you ask your child to show a number like 3, your child can see that 3 takes 2 more to get to 5, or it takes 5, 6, 7 more to get to 10. If your child needs to count the numbers one at a time, that's okay. So if you say 7 and you see your child going like this, that's all right. But hopefully, with a little practice with this tool, your child will recognize 7 as 5 and 2 and be able to put it on there more quickly. Another thing you can do with this rekken rack is show different ways to make a number using both rows. So here I have 7 on the top row, but if I want to show 7 a different way, I could say it's the same as 6 and 1. Still 7. The same as 5 and 2. Still 7. And keep going like this, showing different ways to make the same number. So a lot of practice with this. You can ask your child, show me a number, or you can put a number on there and ask your child what number it is. If your child's ready for bigger numbers, here's one more thing. I call this a 100 bead string. It still has numbers in alternating 2 colors. I'm a Mountaineer fan, in case you couldn't tell. But this time they're in groups of 10. So I can model here numbers all the way up to 100. If I want to model a number like, let's say, 48, it can be done pretty quickly. 10, 20, 30, 40, 8. So I have 48 on. If I want to look at what's left, I can count from the other end. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 52. So 48 and 52 together make 100, just a bigger landmark number. Tools like these can be used for counting. They can also be used for simple adding and subtracting. They're all easy to make at home. If you would like to have the materials to make these, we'll give you information on that at the end of the video. One more thing that's available to you also. We have some flashcards here that can be used in different ways. We have numbers, and we have representations done with the 10-frame model. So your child can match up. This is 7, and that's 7. That would be one simple activity that you could do. You could also flip them over and play a game of memory, matching the representation with the number. So whatever you're doing with these basic models, have fun with your child. Don't do it for too long at one time. Just have some fun with it. So we started out using some very concrete models. We had just using counters and then using beads and various formations and the different frames. As we move to the flashcards, now we're connecting something very concrete to more of a representation of it, and then just the symbolic, the number. So let's look at some other basic models that you can use. This is just a simple chart that goes from 1 to 20. You might start out by asking your child, what do you notice? Do you notice anything about how the numbers are arranged, or perhaps the fact that when you look from the top row to the bottom row, one of the digits is the same, the difference being the 1, which represents 10, in front of each digit. You can use this to practice by asking your child, what number is this? What number is this? Or asking your child to show you a particular number. Remember, those teen numbers are often tricky. When your child is ready, you can look at a 100 chart. The 100 chart is used a lot in school, as you can see where it got its name. Again, you might start by asking, what do you notice and what patterns do you see? So, for example, we're counting by tens over here in the last column. We can say that most of the numbers in this row have 5 tens until we get to the end, 60. This can be used for adding. It can be used to reinforce counting. If your child has any confusion or isn't yet secure with the counting sequence, these charts can help. This chart is almost the same. It goes from 0 to 99. We talked about 0 being an important concept, and here you have the numbers counting by 10 on the left-hand side. Other than that, it's going to be pretty much the same. If you're interested in getting any of these materials to work with your child at home, just send an email to Dr. Sarah Lee. Her address is slee, L-E-E, @k12.wv.us, and we'll get you set up with the materials.